Okay, the chunk errors will stay for now. I managed to lose one of my sponges, which I don't think I'm ever getting back. And in the process of looking for it, I've gotten myself lost in the caves. I should be able to fly myself out, but I did find an amethyst over here and another amethyst over here. So I will be writing these chords down. I did have another double geode area, but it's really far away. I have finally settled on a plan for this episode. It's something that I've been thinking about for quite some time. And the reason that I've been putting this off for as long as I have is just because of the sheer scale of the project that I'm about to start. So ever since I put this aqueduct in, I have been thinking about how it doesn't really make a lot of sense for the aqueduct to come from this tiny little mountain. And so what I want to do is I want to build up all of this into a real proper mountain range. We had the caves and cliffs update, honestly at this point, a long time ago. This was generated before that, so I kind of want something on that scale, and I'm probably going to try to bring it out maybe over to this tree line over here, and well, maybe not quite that far, but that's the general idea. I want to lay it out, I think, with netherrack. It's a good throwaway block and it'll get covered up anyways. So that's what I'm going to start doing right now, is just putting those down to try to get the general shape of it. This is what it looks like as far as the beginning of the footprint. I'm thinking I shouldn't do like the far side of it, like over here. Because if I lay that out and I start building it, and then I decide that, oh, it's got to be like this height, and then suddenly it starts looking way too steep compared to what I want it to be, that's just going to cause a lot of unnecessary... I almost had it. A lot of unnecessary problems later on. So I'm going to build the closer side of it, and then later on I'll do the back. I kind of feel like this is already really steep and I need to kind of come back in and fill in these parts with dirt. Start to get some of that stone in there, as you can see. It's just sort of sporadic. I'm copying some of the patterns that I see using that mountain as kind of a reference point. Made some more good progress. This is all the way up above the aqueduct finally. Still got a little ways to go there. Also started taking out some of these trees. My vision right now is to have kind of like a double peak here, and then a little bit of a low spot over here, and then a much smaller peak right about there. That's what I'm going to go for over here. And then maybe this double will turn into kind of a triple as I start to build that side up. The taller I make this stuff over here, the more I feel the need to come back over to this side and just like make sure that it's gonna look right when it connects. So the last thing I want to do is have this look like some kind of seam where like all of a sudden this side is way more shallow or way steeper. So I'm just kind of like coming back and trying to make sure these two are gonna match up the way I want them to. And with that, I can try and see if it kind of looks... Yeah, I think so. So this will slope up to there at basically the same level. See, even that's gonna make it too steep though. So maybe this needs to be getting a lot steeper, a lot quicker than I'm realizing. Because on the other side, I had already been putting quite a bit of stone in. Alright, well, this can still be a good guide, so I'm going to leave it for now. One thing for sure is as soon as I get to that corner right there, need to turn in and start going the other direction. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to trace around. I think the best way to do it, really, for right now anyways, and some of this can be temporary, and some of it I can build on top of it if I want to later, but the best way I think for now is to just kind of go around like this and start working my way back down. Now this may not work as well for like very tall peaks further along, but for this first one, I think this is the way. And it makes extra sense when you realize that the other side pretty much is about the same. And that's what I got to keep an eye on, is as I go down, I got to come back over here every now and again and look, well, how steep is it on the other side? I might be changing my mind a little bit. I don't think that this ridge is exactly what I want to follow. I think for part of it, it is exactly what I want to follow. Like over here, this is good stuff. This is where the ridge should be. Over here, I think it needs to split off and make a little bit of a more circular shape so that I can have a peak that goes up further, because actually I do want this to be just a little bit taller, which is probably gonna make my life a little bit more difficult over there. But that's why I made this side first and only did a little bit of the other side, because I knew that I didn't have a good sense of the scale. Okay, so what this then is actually going to look like a little bit more like this, I think. So it'll start out kind of narrow and be a little bit oval shaped. And then it'll come back and meet this part over here. And so that the rest of the mountaintop will be kind of based on that. I'm going to go around and kind of blunt the top of it by putting more stuff, like more stone around here, so that we have more of a peak that you can stand on, especially for a lower one. And then also making kind of the lead up to it, like all this stone should be kind of steeper, I feel like, versus the stuff immediately around it. Kind of what makes it special compared to those. So let me fly around and see how this looks. Yeah, see, that's better. And then this is going to immediately start going down over there. Okay, I can work with that. If I have to change it up later on, I can do that too. All right, I figured a few things out, I think, and came up with this. The secret sauce, so to speak, is to kind of just make a circle for the peak and build everything else up to that. And to do that sooner rather than later, because otherwise you end up with a ridge like this, where it's too high up. And then I ended up actually building this up a lot higher than I expected to. And then kind of the same with those, which I'm not mad about in the slightest. Forgot to deploy my wings. But yeah, this I think is looking pretty good. And this over here makes exactly the shape that I was hoping it would. Now I just need to, I guess, build the back of it. Oops. And once I've built the back, it will be all set. So I'm going to try to do that as quick as I can, and then I'll move on to the other side. I've made a little more progress over here. It's starting to look pretty steep, which is good. I have decided that this peak here, the tallest one right now, that should not be quite as steep with the approach in the back here. And that kind of means that I can't use this natural generation terrain. I'll probably have to pull it back into more of like this area and have the like base of the mountain be right here. which is fine. It's just a little bit more work versus trying to connect it over here. But I think that'll just be too steep. And I've already got a pretty steep spot right here. So that's the plan. I'm going to keep at it and hopefully have this half of the mountain complete pretty soon. So I think this is good enough for now. I didn't quite make it to the halfway point, but I think I'm going to save the rest of that back area for once I'm done with the other half over there. Because I am a little bit anxious to get settled in for the time lapse. So this seems like a pretty good time to remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. Every new subscriber does help me out and motivate me to keep making new videos. So it goes a long way, especially for a small channel like me. And you know, a lot of work went into making this time lapse and these videos in general. I have actually access to a whole separate computer now so that I could play on that other computer while I record here and make these time lapses. It's a whole thing. I also just figured out how to attach the shock mount on my microphone. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's like a ring with little elastic bands that keeps your microphone from picking up all of the like vibrations from your desk. So you probably heard like a lot of that earlier in the video and now you're not hearing any of it. And if you can tell that difference, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, where, you know, every episode I'm learning some things, applying them to the new video. And we're only 10, well, I guess this is the 11th video that I've ever made for YouTube. So, you know, I think it's improving pretty quickly and don't expect that to stop anytime soon. It's a lot of work, but it's also really fun to learn all this stuff and watch the progression of these videos as I go along. But yeah, we are going to need a new angle here, so let's find a new spot and continue the time lapse. Hey little cameraman, come on, follow me. Let's get you all connected here. Come on, let's go. We've got a new spot for you. I hope you don't mind heights. All right, here we are, going up. Yep, all the way. Keep going. You can do it. Goodbye. Okay, sorry, that was really goofy, but it made me laugh, so I decided to keep it. You're also probably noticing the big difference in render distance right now. It's because I wanted to be able to see the castle in the background, and on the realm, you have a max render distance that does not allow that. So I decided to just download the world and play off-realm, offline, and yeah, not a lot of people come on the realm anyways, so I might make that a habit. But back on the topic of the mountain, I was almost ready to do the entire mountain as a time lapse, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't do that because it would have actually probably taken up the entire video. I got this entire time lapse. At the end of it is down to about 4 or 5 minutes of like video, but it was probably 6 hours of recording that I trimmed down to make those couple of minutes. And so the whole mountain probably would have been, I'm guessing, between 12 and 15 hours of playtime. And then that would have come down to like almost 10 minutes of time lapse. So you would have had half or more of this video be time lapse, and I think that's maybe a little bit too much. But on that note, it's time to change things up again.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Oh man, what a weird dream. Anyway, I did originally think about making this into a volcano instead of just like a standard mountain range. And I really did end up going with like a vanilla Minecraft imitation mountain. I kind of wanted it to fit in with the rest of the landscape. I don't want to go around customizing all the terrain in the entire area just to make the mountain look right. So that was kind of the like rationale behind why I'm only using dirt and stone for the mountain. If I decide later on that I want to do like a whole terraforming project for the entire surrounding of the castle, then I would come back and do, you know, cobblestone, black stone, deep slate, moss for the grass, and all kinds of other stuff for the mountain. But right now I just don't see how that would fit the like general vibe of this area. So that's why I decided not to go too crazy on that. Plus I never would have finished. So at this point in the video, you can kind of tell that I made a little mistake. I left my heads up display turned on. So my items are all visible there, and I'm kind of standing in a little bit of a different spot. It's not really worth fixing, so I'm gonna leave it. Yeah, what happened basically was I got blown up. This turns out to not be the best spot to sit. Mobs spawn all over the place on top of the mountain, and I got killed more than once recording from this section here, which, I mean, it's no big deal. I'm also, at this point, I've long since run out of stone in my storage, so I'm digging out from under the castle and running away to grab stone from different parts of the world. But hey, this is the final peak of this mountain range, pretty much complete. And so there's a few more details to put on, but other than that, we can go and do a fly around and see how it all looks. All right, and here we go. This is the mountain, completed, covered in dirt, and a little bit of snow that started to fall. I would say I am more than happy with how this came out. It is looking really good as a backdrop and a reason for this aqueduct to exist. With a little hot spring in here. And yeah, got some snow starting to fall on top, especially on these two peaks. I think I'm gonna have to come back and add it by hand to this one over here. Seems like the snow just doesn't want to naturally lay over there, which is fine. I can do that. But yeah, overall, really happy with how this came out. It's kind of fun to fly down in here and look at it from underneath. Really do have to fly like all the way from one end to the other because it takes so long to walk. But yeah, that is this project complete and the episode as well. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Goodbye.